You need to understand the earlier you are on the waiver wire, the better off your team will be. And right now, before week 1, there are guys you can pick up off the waiver wire for free right now. And you need to jump on it before week 1 fantasy football. So we're going to go through the guys you need to pick up off of your waiver wire for free before week 1. Just make sure to go down there, drop a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support because I am doing everything I can to get us ready for week 1. The only thing that's better than picking up someone off the waiver wire for free is automating that process so you can sleep through the night and not have to stress about it, guys. We have automated the waiver wire process through our website, FS Roundup. All you have to do is hook up your ESPN or Yahoo League to automate your waiver wire process because the last thing you want to do is end up like a guy like this.
This is Ted. Look at him. Ted desperately needs to pick up a new running back, or his fantasy team is toast. For the 3rd year in a row. And losing his season again means one thing.
Oh no.
Don't be Ted. Use Fantasy Football Roundup to automate your waiver pickups and rest easy this season. Huh. Look at him.
So going off of that theme right here, I want to dive into the running backs first. Because in my opinion, the running backs available on the waiver wire today are going to be game changers come week 1 or week 2 fantasy football by the latest. So what you can see on the screen is a list of running backs who are most available by roster percentage via ESPN. Right now, my top guy out of most available, which are going to be guys under 45% rostered, my number 1 guy is Braylon Allen of the New York Jets. He is currently rostered in 35.9% of leagues on ESPN. Braylon Allen, what you have to understand is that last year, yes, he was a backup. But what has happened between last year and now? Well, this year they have a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator, and a new regime entirely that did not draft Breece Hall. And what we have seen all offseason, what the tea leaves have told us, is that this team plans on using a 2, if not 3-headed running back monster. Now, that was initially just written off as talk, right? Like, whatever, I'll believe that when I see it. Well, we did see it throughout the preseason. Braylon Allen got lots of work with the ones in every preseason game. So you cannot write off this one as just an insurance back policy anymore. Braylon Allen is going to be a 10 to 15 plus touch per game type of guy. He has no business on your waiver wires. And the one thing you might say to me is, well, Braylon Allen is a part of this offense that doesn't exactly have a great offensive structure. They're the Jets, they're not that good of a team. What I would counter with is, yes, you're correct. The Jets aren't great, and their offense I don't think is great, but they will be run first number 1 because that's what they've shown. And number 2, their offensive line is vastly improved. It's actually, believe it or not, a top 12 offensive line according to PFF. They rank offensive lines every year, and they're very accurate at doing it. The Jets have improved quite a bit. So to me, this is a guy who is a no-brainer, has no business being on your waiver wire come week 1. And I think you need to pick him up immediately, if not for the insurance of Breece Hall, but also the potential to have a flex-worthy guy off the waiver wire. Now into our next guy, I think Jaden Blue is also very valuable at this point in fantasy football. And he's rostered in 41.1% of ESPN leagues. Now, with Jaden Blue, you have to acknowledge a couple things on this first. Number 1 is that Javonte Williams, by all indications, is going to be the starting running back in this Dallas Cowboys offense. That's a bad sign. They have a bad running back room, and you know that because Javonte Williams, who has no explosion left in his legs, is leading the running back room. Now, that leads me to one conclusion, which is that at some point, this team will need a spark offensively. And if you just look at their running back situation with Miles Sanders also in that room, Jaden Blue is the most explosive out of the bunch. So I believe Jaden Blue, if not the starter week 1, will have a role week 1. Now, the other factor you have to consider here with Jaden Blue is that he is currently dealing with an injury right now. Now, he is practicing. He is back at practice, which is a good sign. And it looks like he should be ready for week 1. But just keep an eye on the injury situation, because ultimately what you could do is if he misses week 1, you just put him on the IR and pick up somebody else, and he won't take up a roster spot. But with Jaden Blue, I think that this offense is good enough offensively to have a running back that has good weeks in fantasy. And again, I just come from a lack of faith in Javonte Williams to be able to hold on to that spot very long. So I think Jaden Blue, being the most explosive back, has a lot of pass catching utility right away and could easily become a 15-plus touch type of back at some point in the first month of September. Now, the next guy I want to go through is also going to be Dylan Sampson, rookie running back out of the University of Tennessee, 19% rostered in ESPN leagues, and he plays for the Cleveland Browns. So obviously the point that everybody needs to understand is that Cleveland's offense sucks. Like, I am not here to tell you that Cleveland has some high upside offense you need to get in on. That's not the case at all. They have Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback. Their offensive line is a little older, a little more beaten up. It shouldn't be the same running back system as you used to look at a guy like Nick Chubb when he played with Cleveland. But my thing with Dylan Sampson is that you have to look at this offense very logically. Now, the guy that it was supposed to be was Quinshon Judkins. And Quinshon Judkins, ironically, I don't know how the fantasy community got to this place, but it's over 70% roster right now. It is absolute insanity. That should not happen. He should be on waiver wires right now. But the bottom line is that Jerome Ford looks like the day one starter, and that is noteworthy for Dylan Sampson. But the other thing that I find very interesting that not many people talk about is that Jerome Ford has been in a situation in Cleveland where they were actually trying to get rid of him this offseason, and he accepted a pay cut to stay with the Cleveland Browns. They have not exactly shown any signs up to this point that they wanted him to be a part of their plans. Now he's the running back one by default because they haven't felt like they've gotten what they could get out of Dylan Sampson and especially Quinshon Judkins. But I will say this to you. Jerome Ford is not their guy, and Quinshon Judkins will not play at least week 1. We can all agree on that, right? Like, it's gotten crazy with Quinshon Judkins. Dylan Sampson is a running back that was very, very good in college at the University of Tennessee. You can see the numbers on the screen. Not only was he efficient, he was also a workhorse for the University of Tennessee, especially when Jalen Wright left in 2024. He had a dominant season last year. So this is a guy who can handle a workload. He is a little bit on the smaller side, but so is Jerome Ford. So in my opinion, I don't think it's inconceivable whatsoever if by the end of week 1, they decide we just haven't seen enough from Jerome Ford and we want to move on to Dylan Sampson. And in that case, you need to have him on your roster because he will get a lot of work. Now, I know our next guy is a perceived backup right now. Woody Marks of the Houston Texans, rookie running back, is coming in 9.5% rostered on ESPN leagues. So he's widely available. Now, the reason I think that you should pick him up before week 1, and I went over this in my running back rankings briefly, is just an inherent distrust in Nick Chubb at this point of his career. Now, Nick Chubb obviously looks like he should be, by all accounts, the lead back in this backfield right away. And I don't have a problem with backing that claim up. They will do that. But the thing is, when he gets out there, and if he looks anything like he did last year, he will not be able to cut it for this Houston offense. If he averages 2-3 yards per carry, they need to look elsewhere. And what's one thing that Nick Chubb has never done throughout his entire career? That one thing is catch passes, which Woody Marks is really good at. So I think what we're already set up to see is Woody Marks in a third down back role and a receiving down back role. I think that's not inconceivable to happen right away. And the bottom line is also, unlike Cleveland, unlike Dallas even, or unlike the Jets, this is an offense you want pieces on. And Joe Mixon will be out the first 4 weeks, meaning that if Woody Marks makes his mark, pun intended, in the first couple of weeks, he could have a season-long impact and become a legit league-winning player on a good offense. I'll take Woody Marks off the waiver wire today for free. Now, Kareem Hunt is the next guy I want to talk about here. Now, you may argue with me on this and say, Ryan, he's not really a must-add. before week 1. And listen, I could listen to your perspective on that one because I'm not a big Kareem Hunt guy at this point of his career. He is 12.6% rostered on ESPN though, so it means he's widely available. Now, the reason why I consider him to be a must-add before week 1 is because when I look at this Kansas City Chiefs offense and Isaiah Pacheco, while I am trusting him more and more as I've seen him throughout the preseason, I will say that Kareem Hunt could be in line to get a similar workload to what he had at certain points last year. And if you remember, he was a 12 to 15 touch per game basis type of back for a little bit for Kansas City. And I think that's what we could see from him again, because it is obvious that you need a running back in Kansas City because they will provide fantasy upside. And while I do think Pacheco will be the lead guy, I do also believe that Kareem Hunt could have a very good role. So if you're in deeper leagues, or if you just grabbed 2 or 3 quarterbacks or tight ends and you could drop one of them easily, I think this is a strong move to make. Now, Roschon Johnson is the last running back that I actually believe is worthy of a pickup. Roschon Johnson is on the Chicago Bears offense with a revamped offensive line that is now number 4 according to PFF in the NFL, and he also has Ben Johnson as his offensive coordinator / head coach. Well, what did Ben Johnson utilize better than anybody else ever has in the NFL as the offensive coordinator for Detroit the past couple of years? The 2 running back system. Now, you need to understand this. Before you add Roschon Johnson, consider the fact that apparently they are looking for a running back via trade right now. So maybe we see Travis Etienne or Tank Bigsby go over to Chicago, for example. But while nothing has happened yet, I guarantee you that one of these running backs between him and Kyle Monungai will have a red zone role, and I am leaning towards Roschon at this point. So therefore, he needs to not be on waivers. Now, I want to go through the most available wide receivers in this list as well, and I want to start out with Dante Thornton of the Las Vegas Raiders. If you do not know this guy, he was an unknown-ish prospect, and he is 6.6% rostered on ESPN. He is not being considered by many people at all, and it's kind of crazy if you think about it, because what I'm about to lay out to you is a clear path for not only a number 3 or number 2 role consistently in this offense, a potential number 1 wide receiver role. So Jacoby Myers, if you have not heard, is apparently being shopped around. The Raiders didn't want to do it. Apparently he wants out, and there is buzz being created about a potential departure for Jacoby Myers. And if he does go, then Jacoby Myers is opening up a huge void for targets. Now, if Jacoby Myers stays, Dante Thornton has already been running with the number 1 team all offseason ahead of Jack Betch, who was drafted higher than him in the 2025 draft. Dante Thornton has done a lot for this team throughout the preseason and training camp to impress them. And Geno Smith is a viable fantasy quarterback. We have seen supply really good options as pass catchers. Dante Thornton, to me, is one of the sneakiest, best waiver wire ads at the wide receiver position, because I guarantee you, once people start seeing that this guy got 8 targets in week 1, 9 targets in week 1, they'll be all over him. But if you watch this channel, it'll be too freaking late. Now, Christian Kirk is the next guy that I want to talk about here. And I will be brutally honest on this one. I am not the biggest Christian Kirk guy. He is 24.9% rostered on ESPN, though, and I think that's way too low. Now, Christian Kirk, again, I have to reiterate, I'm not a Christian Kirk guy. I do think at some point Jalen Noel will overtake him for lead slot duties in the Houston offense. But that's just the thing. While he is available and starting for this Houston offense in the slot, it's a guy that needs to be rostered, because what we know is that last year, if you look at that, not only was Nico Collins an elite player in fantasy, but Stephon Diggs had a really good run as well before he went down. Tank Dell was a viable option for a lot of weeks as well before he went down. So CJ Stroud, we understand, is a capable quarterback of supplying 2, even 3 targets in fantasy football that are worthwhile for your roster. So I think you have to be crazy to not roster a guy like Christian Kirk while he looks to be the lead slot guy in Houston. And Troy Franklin is the next guy that I want to talk about. And this is a bottom line scenario here. You need to have a wide receiver from Denver on your roster. Courtland Sutton is the only one above 50% rostered, though. Troy Franklin is rostered in 1.2% of ESPN leagues. Now, on one hand, you may say to me, well, Since he's so low rostered, nobody's paying attention to him. Why do I need to go out and take him in week 1? There's several reasons why. First of all, they traded Devon Vele to the New Orleans Saints a little while ago. When they did that, Troy Franklin became the wide receiver 2 on this depth chart. In addition, Sean Payton, the head coach, has also come out and said he's making the year 2 leap this year, and I'm excited about it. Now, Sean Payton, I've always said you can't always trust everything that comes out of his mouth. But if this Denver offense takes the lead that many of us in the community believe they will take, and Bo Nix is a really good quarterback this year, do you really think his best fantasy option will be Courtland Sutton, and that will be the end of that? It may be Courtland Sutton that's the best, but he will have 2 viable pass catchers at the very minimum, outside of Evan Ingram, by the way. So I think that Troy Franklin needs to be on a roster, particularly in deep, deep leagues. Now, the next guy I want to talk about is Isaac Tesla as well. And what I've seen throughout the fantasy community is there's definitely hype building on Isaac Tesla. Now, he's 4.6% rostered on ESPN, so it's not much yet. But what I think we will see from Isaac Tesla is a lot of involvement early on. First of all, they traded Tim Patrick away to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you might be wondering why they do that. Well, it's because they believe that he can take over this wide receiver 3 duty. And if you want to know how often Detroit runs in 11 personnel, aka 3 wide receiver sets, last year they were in 11 personnel 47% of their first and second down plays. And when they were in 11 personnel, they threw it on 54% of those plays. So long story short, this team is in 11 personnel quite enough to have Isaac Tesla be very relevant in fantasy. So I think that Isaac Tesla on this Detroit offense will be a viable target to get at some point in the season. And I think it's best to hop on him now before a lot of people are trying to hop on him. Now, the last 2 guys that I want to go through, you need to understand that they're more than 45% rostered. These 2 guys that I want to go through, you need to check their availability because they are between 45 and 60% rostered on ESPN leagues. So they're not widely available like the other guys were. Jerome Ford is one of them, 59.8% rostered. As I just went through, Jerome Ford looks like he will be the running back 1 in Cleveland. Now, Jerome Ford is a guy I particularly sort of like this year because he fit a lot of good unsuspecting league-winning running back criteria that helped me find Chuba Hubbard and Chase Brown last year. Well, Jerome Ford fit that before and after the rookies were added to the team. So if Jerome Ford comes out, balls out, you're going to be sorry that somebody else had them on their roster. And then Trey Benson, rostered in 48.1% of ESPN leagues, has no business being on the waiver wire. He is well ranked, in my personal rankings, well ranked above consensus. I do not believe that he should be anywhere close to a waiver wire. This guy, all indications would show that he will be the 1B to the 1A James Conner. And there's 2 roads for this. Either A, James Conner gets hurt, which is unfortunately very possible, or B, Trey Benson outperforms him to become the lead back at some point this season. When that happens, people will see it coming because people already know that he should be rostered, at least 48% of people who play on ESPN. Don't let this guy on your waiver wire. Go grab him today. Now, the last group of guys I wanted to throw bonus on is a group of guys I don't think are must-adds before week 1, but a group of guys that I think you should keep your eye on throughout the rest of the week and leading into week 2 fantasy football and just throughout the regular season because I think they have merit to be on rosters if things come to fruition. Marvin Mims Jr. on the Denver Broncos, 35.9% rostered on ESPN. Again, Marvin Mims is a part of a group in Denver that you want another wide receiver on. I just don't know who it is yet. Marvin Mims is currently working with the starters as he has been all offseason, so it very well could be him. And if it is, keep an eye on that. Xavier Legette in Carolina, 43.3% rostered. They want Xavier Legette to work because they spent first-round capital on him in 2024. So they will do what they can to make this one work, and if he does work, he shouldn't be on waivers. Bayshul Tootin of the Jacksonville Jaguars. This running back room is wide open apparently, and they're trying to trade one of them if they have not already traded them by the time you're watching this video, which could open things up for Bayshul Tootin in Jacksonville, a high-powered offense, and he's 26.7% rostered. Demario Douglas of the New England Patriots, 15.1% rostered. I have said multiple times in the offseason that I do think Stephon Diggs is a shaky player in New England. Mike Vrabel, the head coach coach over there already has alluded to him not particularly liking Stephon Diggs, so I think that this one could turn sour fast, and he may be off the team by mid-season, which would make Demario Douglas way more valuable in fantasy. Isaiah Likely, remember him? Big phenom last year on the waiver wire after week 1. He's just injured right now, which makes him 8.1% roster. But if you recall how they used these tight ends in Baltimore last year, Isaiah Likely got a lot more involved over time. So I do not think that this one will go away when he becomes healthy again. And Pat Bryant of Denver, he is 3.7% rostered. Again, Denver wide receivers, bookmark all of them. I think Troy Franklin's the front runner right now for who you want, but Pat Bryant could easily be that guy too. So let me know who you're targeting on the waiver wire before week 1 fantasy football. Automate that process with the link below. Sign up and never lose out on your priority ad at 3 in the morning again.